After a weekend where we have been on break, we're back to carry on our 8th season of the Zoom Racing League Championship. Our third round brings us to Marina Bay Circuit in Singapore, another very technical and narrow track offering 10 corners to the right and 13 to the left that spans for 3.1 miles. Even with 3 DRS zones, overtaking is normally very difficult here. However, both divisions raced last night offered multiple battles in different portions of the track, although with very mixed results. I'm John Ranger, your host for tonight, and for this high-risk, high-reward track tonight, we're doing a full qualifying session. Our drivers are already out on their first laps, and with us tonight to take us through this broadcasting in the broadcast booth is our Division 2 race winner from last night, Nathan Doe. Nathan, how are you doing tonight?
Doing amazing. I'm currently on board with my man, Major Castleman. He's on lap right now. It is very, very wet right now. I've heard that it's going to be full wet qualifying and then a dry race. So that will be, it'll make the session not longer, but we definitely still have a lot on our plate tonight as commentators, don't we?
Yeah, most definitely, and it's going to be a long night. Qualifying being full wet. We'll keep an eye on the race if it's going to be wet as well. You had a lot of mixed conditions in the last 2 races in the division. I know in Division 2 we had the last 5 laps being a bit on intermediate-ish conditions. And then Division 3 had some wet qualifying sessions. I believe was Q2 that was wet and then got back to dry. So yeah, Singapore's a very, very tough track. It's very humid here. It could always rain at any kind of moment. Often, you could feel the droplets of water in the air once you go there, and not an easy race, especially physically in the real life F1 season. You will often see drivers take ice baths, and maybe a couple of our drivers took some ice baths because we've got some sweaty guys out there. We had some guys being in the top 10s in the race leaderboards on time trials. I think Quentin K was up there at some point. We saw Hudson Poole being in the top 3 at some point. Marc-Olivier Biastin as well, I believe, was 7th in the world as well. So, these guys came here and they came here to race. And that kind of reflects a little bit on the standing with the drivers I've mentioned a little bit. Nathan, if you want to take us through the driver standings first?
Yeah, so Hudson Poole leads with 2 podiums, 1 win. Well, 2 podiums, one of them is a win with 60 points. Then behind him is Eric Carvalho, who won last time out in Hungary. Then after that, Marc-Olivier Biastin, very consistent with P2s so far. He's got 2 of them. He's 1 point behind Era. After that, Chad Swindell, I forgot where he is in the world, but I'm sure you remember. And then after that, it's Cam Bourne from Canada, and for McLaren, he's in 5th. After that, Quinton Kay and Kyle Blevins, also known as Cal, are 6th and 7th. And then Marcel Paps, even though he DNF'd in the first race, still got 20 points to his name, and that puts him 8th place. After that, Paul Mariage, who is not here today, will not, he's in 9th place, is what I mean to say. And then Sean Moriarty is in 10th with 18 points. After that, Hector Ochoa in the Alpine. After that, Aaron Altmaier, Aston Martin team principal, as I always mention. Then behind him is Colin Edwards, and after that, Maxime Beaulieu, who said that he might be looking for a Q1 exit today because he can't break the 35s yet. After that, Magnussen Cube, Johannes Ludwig, Ryan Newton, Major Castleman, Freddie Razzle, and Stelios Repas.
Yeah, most definitely. And what about the constructors? How is that looking?
Yeah, so Mercedes leads by 4 points to Alpine, who, arguably are being carried by 1 driver at the moment. Hector Ochoa is still having a few points to his name, but the main man himself, Eric Carvalho, is really helping out Alpine in the constructors' standings. Behind them is Williams and Red Bull. Then it's Haas and McLaren in 6th, and then so separated by 1 point is Ferrari and Alfa Romeo. Then after that, it's Aston Martin and AlphaTauri.
Yeah, it's really an interesting season so far. We're not used to seeing Ferrari so far down. McLaren as well is usually lower in the standings, but so far in Division 1, Cam Bourne had a really good performance so far in the beginning of the season with the first 2 rounds, and so that's kind of reflected there. AlphaTauri a little bit more difficult, and Aston Martin as well is a bit iffy to begin the season, but we're very confident that these guys are going to bring it back up. And back to the drivers real quick. Look at that. Look at the difference between our top 3 drivers. You know, like a Hudson Pool, Eric Cavallo, and Marc-Olivier Basset. It's 4 points that separate the top 3, and so Singapore, especially with the full qualifying, becomes super important for the qualifying position. And currently, with the banker lap, it's Quentin K at a 158.1. Chad Swindell's behind in 4/10, and I think Quentin K just.
Hey.
Oh, yeah, it's Cam Bourne. There you go. I just saw the numbers switch. I had a bit of a lag on my end there, but Cam Bourne with 157.8. So, just comes to show that the timings you're seeing on the timetable there are going to be switching around very, very often. We still have many drivers who've not posted a lap time yet. We're still 8 minutes and a half to go around the laps, and I'm thinking some of these drivers, instead of doing only 1 lap on the wets, are probably overfueling a little bit and doing a couple laps to make sure they come to grips with the track. And these are very, very difficult conditions, especially with the track setup and the way everybody had to work on their mechanical grips to make sure the tires don't overheat. And now you come into very wet conditions, and you gotta adjust for that in those kind of conditions. So yeah, I'm gotta tell you, Nathan, I'm glad we had mostly dry conditions in our race, because I don't want to be on track with these drivers right now. That looks tough.
Yeah, I mean, even those last laps last night in Division 2, where it was just a little bit slick, were difficult, and I can't imagine what these drivers are going through right now. Like you were talking about, some of these drivers, well, most of these drivers have overfueled around 7 laps of fuel, so they can just get a couple of line laps, some consecutive. Maybe they'll do a push lap, back off, and then do another push lap. Whatever it is, it's going to be kind of tricky. And with this full qualifying and all of it to be wet, it's going to be just all about consistency and making sure that you don't make any crucial errors in this qualifying session tonight.
Yeah, we're on board. We're just on board with Johannes Ludwig, and coming out of turns 17, he kind of slid sideways there. So I think he's going to be back in lip hole mode, going back into the pits, and that is exactly what he's doing. He nearly lost it. Luckily, didn't hit a wall, so he kept it sideways. And no damage on that Ferrari. Worth noting here, Colin Edwards doesn't. I don't know if it's a connection issue or if he retired for other reasons, but I think he's done. I think he's done out of Q1, and so Colin Edwards will be starting the race in P19. We're missing a driver, and I believe it's an Alfa Romeo driver. Fede Rosell is there. Is going to be the only Alfa Romeo driver for his team tonight. A little bit disappointing weekend overall, I believe, for the Alfa Romeo drivers. I think in Division 3, both Alfa Romeo drivers collided in qualifying and gave each other penalties, or one of them got at least a 5-grid penalty after that situation. So Fede Rosell, team principal, is there to try to save the honors. So we'll see what he can do tonight here in Singapore. Has not set a lap yet, and just to go on board with him, he is trying to set a lap currently. A lot of wheel spin when I got on board with him. And so he's just going around turns 14 now, and that's a spin into the wall, and that's most probably, it doesn't look like it, but the hit looked hard enough to probably give him a little bit of damage on the wing, even if you don't see it visually. And so that is done for him. He's probably gonna have to go back into the pits. Very difficult for him to keep it on track as it is.
Yeah, so you already know I'm on with my main man, Cam Bourne. No McLaren bias, as I always say. He's down about 1/10 in Sector 2, but his strategy so far has been to back off 1 lap and then push on the next. And I'd say that's a good strategy in these conditions with about 5 minutes left of the session, as he just almost spins it around there. I think he backs off here. And maybe he'll go for another push lap. He's got... I can't see how much fuel that is. I think that's like 1.6 laps, if I am correct. But yeah, a bit of a shocker to see Cam Bourne on provisional pole at the moment. I mean, it is full qualifying, but it is nice to see McLaren on top if you're the team principal. After that, we do have a lot of drivers that are expected to be on pole just on their outlaps now, or maybe even on the flyer. I think Marc-Olivier Bastien is about to finish his lap. Doesn't look all that quick, but he hasn't used much of his batteries, so we'll see what he can do as he crosses the line in just a little bit. Very fast corner to come across the line now, and it's going to be 157.882 400 slower than Camborne at the moment. But we have 3 pretty quick drivers ready to start the laps. We have Chad Swindell, Quincy K, and Aaron Altmeyer all to start the laps very shortly. We'll look for someone who's on a hot lap here so I can take us through it. It's not going to be Sean Moriarty. We'll see if it's Ryan Noon. I think it could be. Nope.
The next driver
Hudson
across the
Poole.
line is going to be a Mercedes, and I do think it's going to be Hudson Poole coming. No, it's Ryan Newton, actually. And I think he's about to finish his lap. We're looking for a driver who's about to begin, so I don't know if the Ferrari behind him is...
I think
Oh, the
I know
Ferrari.
who we should.
Once
find
again,
too. I
Johannes
think-
Ludwig is sideways on the track. I think he's struggling a little bit, almost getting himself beached on the curb there, and when the wet conditions, there's no traction.
All right, here we go. I think Eric Cavallo is about to start a hot lap here. So I'll take us through it. Very fast left-hand corner there. Normally in the dry, it's a lot faster than that, but on the wet, you need to be careful. So across the line now, he does improve his time, but it's not done with the hot lap yet. Into the first corner, you want to take a little bit of the inside curb, then some of that outside, and then very tight left-hander. You want to get on the power nice, but not that early, not that hard, and he has a bit of a moment through this right-hander. You don't want to go too far left or invalidate the lap. Now onto this straight, no DRS because we are indeed in wet conditions. We have a Ferrari ahead, but shouldn't be anything to worry about. Into this very deep left-hand corner, you want to kind of drift wide onto this exit curb. We'll see if he does just that, and he does, but it's just so difficult to be very quick with these conditions. First gear even for this right-hander, very tight corner. Short shift into third gear, fourth gear now, but in this left-hander, it's just so hard to find the grip for Eric Cavallo in the Alpine. I didn't see how much he improved, but I'm assuming it's just a little bit. Then through this left-hander, you want to get close to the wall on the left-hand side, then brake late for the right-hander. Now very slippy through this section, even in the dry conditions, so be careful in the wet. Then into this very tight left-hand hairpin. Takes it nicely into third gear, and no DRS once again as we go across the bridge. We'll go to the Sector 2 checkpoint now, and it will be 7/10 down, so not a good lap for the Alpine driver. This will be no improvement unless he can find a god tier final sector here. This tricky chicane, you don't want to get too much of this curb that he's coming up to on the left hand side because he will kind of slide off, and he slides off anyway without touching it too much, so I think that will be the end of his hot lap here.
Yeah, I might be looking at a driver who's going to return to the pits given the no improvement unless he decides to go on a cooldown lap. Maybe his tires are overheating from the excess revs, and tire overheating is very much an issue here in Singapore, and looks like he's going to go for it maybe again. I don't know if he's going to... Yeah, he is going for it again, it seems so, and he's got the battery to do it and probably the fuel load as well. He's fueled for 3 more laps. Magnussen Cube is retiring, and we're going to see what era. It doesn't look like it was a voluntary retirement. Magnussen Cube is at the end of that straight. It looks like he hit the wall. Really weird place to hit the wall. I think he was still driving, actually. Maybe he retired there and his AI is parking it in the corner. So he decided to retire. It wasn't a DNF from hitting the wall. He's currently sitting P8. He's either feeling confident or he's playing Russian roulette currently. Oh, actually, what am I saying? There's 40 seconds left to Q1. I still thought there was a couple minutes to go. So we're seeing Marcel Paps as well retiring in this situation. And so Era is on the final lap instead of going into the pits as it is. So Q1 kind of flew by. You know, looking at these drivers go and not going very fast. You know, normally on a dry lap you'd be looking at 136, 137 since it's Q1 and all around those areas. And now we're at 157, so it's almost plus 30 seconds a lap. And these drivers are struggling to go full speed. But currently, P1 or the fastest driver is Chad Swindell. Drivers who are in the danger zone is anybody from P16 down, and so Maxime Beaulieu, and then it's a Zesty Stump, but that is Hector Ochoa and the other Alpine. Colin Edwards is out. Freddie Rozelle is maybe about to, yeah, he's about to cross the final line as well. So we're gonna see if Freddie Rozelle, who's sliding all over the place, is able to get a time on board, and will his time, oh, that's a lot of chicane, probably bottomed out as well, and he's into 2 minutes. That's good for P17. Freddie Rozelle is out. Eric Cavallo is about to cross the line, I believe. There he goes around turns 19, and that is P9 for him. Let's see who else is across. Marc-Olivier is across. We've got Courtney and Ryan Newton into the pits. Sean Moretti has retard as well. For good measure, Chad Swindell of 157.4. Just to flex on everybody. And I think that's going to be it. Sassy Stump has not been able to improve his time. Hector Ochoa is 2 minute 009, and that is the cutoff time. Johannes Ludwig, who seems spinning quite a few times, and also invalidated his final lap, I believe. And so I'd say a bit lucky to get into Q2 in these kind of circumstances. And that is it, everybody. Hector Ochoa is out of Q1. Maxime Beaulieu, who seemed to not find pace and self-admittedly was thinking he'd be out in Q1. Well, it's happened to him indeed. He's 0.3 off the pace. Freddie Rizal even slower, and Colin Edwards, who hasn't put a lap, so we don't know what kind of pace he's going to be able to give us during the race. We're going to find out soon enough. But that is it for Q1, everybody. So stand by for Q2. It's just a couple minutes. Nathan, do you have a driver who do you think is going to be heading for pole? If we were to take our toonie right now?
Well, normally I save the toonie for the race. What's the 1 cent coin?
I'll take a
Canada?
penny.
Alright, penny. So, well, yeah, we're betting very high stakes here. So my penny is right now on Hudson Pool, because I think he can do it. I've seen his times on the time trial leaderboard. I think he can really pull out something impressive tonight. But the main thing I'm focused on, and of course I am, because I'm never going to get over it, we have 2 McLarens in the top 10, baby. But we also have 2 Ferraris in the bottom 5 of what would be Q2, so we want to look towards those Ferraris because we know they're quite quick, but they need to improve their times quite a bit if they need to advance into the next session here.
Yeah, I think Marcel Paps kind of surprised everybody with a Johannes Ludwig selection, and I forget which order of the draft that was. But we saw Ludwig back when he started in the league in Division 2 completely shredding the track and was a very, very fast driver. I think now in the wets is a bit more of a difficult condition. And Q2 is starting. It still looks very, very wet. I mean, the track is moist. And I don't know if that is inter or full wet conditions. I think that's still full wets.
Check the tires. We have Cal on inters so far.
Oh.
Everyone else on the wets, though. Of course, no one's out on track, but if you go with your little spectator menu, you can see that Cal is indeed on the inters, so maybe a bit of mixed strategy. It does look like it's still absolutely pouring down, so I think full wet would be
I think the
the
drivers
option.
are looking, yeah, because Cal is back on wets. We saw Hudson Pool we're really seeing it on live. You see Hudson Pool kind of going back and forth between the inters and the wets. And so we got a first couple drivers going. Probably we're getting closer towards the inters, and some drivers are trying to figure out, how was the track evolution going towards. You could kind of cheese that into the game, if you switch between inters and wets, and it gives you the difference, the differential in time between the tires. You could see that have its own evolution and probably go down and get the inters get a bit quicker, but. Well, we're going to see what we get here, as we're probably going to start on wets, and if the conditions are going towards inters, well, the tires are going to be switched over to that. But for now, most drivers are... I was about to say maybe Arrow's going out on inters, but no, it looks like everybody's going out on wets so far. So we'll see how these drivers fare this time. Track evolution should allow us, nonetheless, to have an improved time. And somebody doing donuts, Stylus Repas, looks like he's lost it on cold tires, and that could definitely happen here in Singapore. Very, very sensitive on the throttle, and if you put like 0.5% of extra throttle, your car is spinning around. It has had a couple Code Brown moments, I could tell you that, Nathan, at the end of the last night's race.
Yeah. So you said something about cold tires. Let's actually talk about that, though, because normally Singapore is known for its tire overheating problems. Now, in the wet conditions, I don't think that still stands, but we will have a dry race. So I think that will still be a factor, the tire overheating, because it was very difficult, I have to say, to keep those hard tires in the first stint under temperature, especially, following behind yours truly, not me, but you.
Yeah.
So I think that will still be a big factor, especially if the pack stays very tight like it normally does in D1. But we'll just have to see. I would like to see if we would get any kind of tire change in qualifying, though. If it did switch over to inters, which it doesn't look like it will because it is still pouring down, we would have an absolute blockbuster finish to qualifying.
Yeah, it's an interesting factor here in Singapore, and I think over the last 2 weeks, or especially over the last week, the buzz and the paddock was tire overheating. Every team was trying to figure out why our tires overheating, and there's many things that could factor in overheating tires. This track is obviously very demanding. There's a reason this track is raced at night, because it would be unbearable. I think Pirelli would look like absolute fools if this race was done during daytime, because it's so hot and the tires would not be able to withstand it. In this kind of condition now, I mean, I'm sure they raised the pressures. I really hope none of these drivers forget to go back to their usual tire pressures once the race starts, because I was practicing with my team this week and I did that mistake, and it is undrivable. And speaking of undrivable, I don't want to point fingers at any teams, but Division 2 and Division 3, we saw top teams having a little bit more difficulty, notably Red Bull and Mercedes, for different kind of reasons. Absolutely. Some were more hardware related than game related or setup related. And it seems like team principal Duncan McCamick kind of called out his team a little bit, saying they dropped the ball. And I don't know if he meant he dropped the ball in regards to the drivers dropping the ball, or if it was an engineering issue and they dropped the ball in regards to the setups. So we'll see how Chad Swindell and Kyle Blevins fare in tonight's race. They've got 2 races to watch and maybe learn some lessons from Division 3 and Division 2, where I think more drivers than none were at the bottom 10, if I remember correctly, or had some issues. So we'll see how that goes. Also worth noting, and we're having the first laps coming in, Major Castman, for a very short moment, had the fastest lap. But I want to talk about the current fastest driver, is Aaron Altmaier at 1:58.5. He was I think he was top 5 in Q1, so he might be in a position, and I think Aaron Altmaier fares pretty well in the rain, Nathan. I think he's in a situation where he might be in a good qualifying position. But once again, Aston Martin is usually the story of the game, is good qualifying, and then comes to the race, a bit more difficult for them.
Yeah, I mean, Aston Martin 9th in the championship with 30 points, so it would definitely be nice if Aaron could get these good qualifying positions to give himself a better shot in the race, because we do have Maxime out already. So it will be very crucial for him to really stay where he is right now, and I think with his level of consistency, he can. And if he does fare well in the wet, then we could be in for good qualifying, but once again, the race will be dry, so a little bit of a situation there. But all these laps coming in, but I was looking at Celius Repas earlier, and if he's on the lap right now, I'm not sure, but he looks very slippy around the circuit. Like, when he was on a hot lap and had the battery enabled, he was just sliding all over the place, still doing so even on his, I think this is a recharge lap, but that is just a situation. So Marcel is the Ferrari, and as I said, after Q1 ended, Ferraris need to improve, and he has done just that, but Johannes Ludwig has not done such a thing. He's actually down on his first lap, and he's spun around. He's almost beat himself on the curb. So he will have to improve by, let's see, just around 3 seconds if he wants to get into the next part of qualifying here.
Yeah, it's a lot of time to be improved, and I think drivers are trying to push maybe a little bit more. They want to go faster than in Q1, and maybe they push on the limits a little bit. An interesting thing, Nathan, listen to this. In regards to my intervention earlier about Red Bull and Mercedes not having the greatest of weekends in regards to Division 2 and Division 3, Duncan McCamick, and I quote, "Our setup was cheeks yesterday, fixed for today, hopefully." And Chad Swindell, well, with a 157.5, he's just a little over 4 tenths faster than Marc-Olivier Bastien and Williams. He's kind of proving his point in that regards. Kyle Blevins back down in P12, currently in the danger spot. Anybody that is P11 down to P15 will be eliminated at the end of Q2. There's just a little over 7 minutes to go. Still time for a lap, maybe 2 laps at the speed that they're going. Probably it's going to be 1 lap. There's not a lot of time, and this is a longer track given the circumstances. So I think the drivers going into the pits now are going to wait a little bit and maybe go either. They're going to do one of two things, right? Maybe overfuel and go for 2 fast laps, one behind another, and to hope for the best, or just go for it for a single lap. And we just saw Marc-Olivier Bastien validate his lap as well, so he will not be improving at the moment. And so that will be that. So yeah, I think, you know, where the pressure is getting to these drivers, and Singapore is already a really tough and technical track, and these full wets, and we've not gone into intermediate conditions as of now, and I don't think we will be. I'd have to go check the weather report officially to figure that out, but it's going to be a tough one for these guys.
Yeah, let's look at all these lap times, though, how close they are between P4 and P10 are all separated by a little bit over 6 tenths. So I think this could be anyone's Q3 at the moment. I mean, fast drivers like Quinton Kay, Kyle Blevins, Sean Moriarty, I think they could all be fighting for the last spot in Q3, but it will all be up to these last 5 minutes here. I think that some people will try and fuel up for 2 laps. I think that'd be a good strategy, but if they can't make it, then they only have the one to do their business. We'll keep looking here. I think Quinton Kay is just about to finish a lap. Looks like he's improving a little bit, still sliding around just ever so much because he's on pretty low gears, I must say. 2nd gear through there, and he's actually going to pit. So we'll look around. I think we might have an Alpine on lap. Looks like it could be, but still, you can't even tell because in these conditions, they just have to be so cautious. You can't tell if they're just being light on the throttle because it's an out lap, or that's really just how cautious they have to be. I think he could be on an out lap though. Right behind him actually is Magnussen Cube. So
yeah, I think they're both on a fast lap actually. I think Era is about to go around the corner and try to improve on his time, and Magnussen Cube's going to be out there right behind him. So Era comes across the line here.
6 seconds down.
Yeah, so he does not improve, and Magnussen Cube is in the pits.
Yeah, so Marcel into P2 now. And
yeah, great improvement on his part, definitely.
Yeah, he doesn't have enough fuel for any after this, but I think he can make it back to the pits in time for another. Actually, he might not be able to. Do you think so? With 2-minute out lap around that. We'll have to see what he can do. We do have Hudson Poole and a McLaren. I think that's Cam Bourne coming out of the pits now. We'll look to see if anyone is trying to improve on their time right now. Aaron Altmaier, I think he just set the fastest Sector 1. I'm not too sure. It went purple on the track map. Either way, he's still trying to improve his time. He's 5th fastest, and I'm not even sure that could be fast enough because we have plenty of quick drivers behind him that will look to improve their time.
Yeah, a lot of the drivers, especially in the midfield, if you look starting at Aaron Allmeyer, is 158.5, and he's closer to 158.6, honestly. And then all the way down to the 159, so half a second. You're P5 and half a second down, and you potentially could be bumped out of Q2, so not an easy situation.
Yeah, especially with all these corners. I mean, in the dry, it's easy to mess up the corners. Aaron Allmeyer, 6 tenths up. That could put him around about P3 right now. If he improves any more in Sector 3, it'll be more. But as I was saying, it's very easy to mess up these corners in the dry, so in the wet, it's going to be close to impossible to get every single thing right. But that's just what you need to do if you want to be on pole position. I'm assuming that's what Chad Swindell is kind of doing right now. And Eric Cavallio goes into the pits. I don't Oh, and he misses the pit lane entirely. Goes back into it anyway. Don't think he'll have enough time to go out into the pits and do another. We have Major Castleman on a lap, 7th fastest right now. I don't think
That's
he's
P2.
safe because, yeah, Aaron Altmaier into P2. Great job. 5 tenths up is Major Castleman, so that will put him P5. And still, with all these people behind him, I'm not sure if that's enough. It's going to be very, very close for Major Castleman in P7 right now.
Yeah.
After that,
Marcel Paps is retired, by the way, and the Ferrari. And one thing that's really interesting to look at, there's 2 minutes to go, and I think Aaron Altmaier is trying to go on another push lap. I think he overfueled to do so. And well, I'm curious to see if he's improving on his lap again, because could that mean he did a fast lap, or... Oh, he's 5 seconds behind, so no, that's terrible. His first sector, I think he's done as well. I was going to ask, he improved this time by 5 tenths. And is that because he did a fast lap, or because the track conditions are getting better? Doesn't seem like it necessarily is. And we're heading towards the end of this qualifying session. Marcel Paps, Eric Cavallo have retired. Last car to go across the line, I believe, was Quinton Kay, who's just starting out on his fast lap. So Nathan, if you want to carry us through Quinton Kay's, who's usually very fast qualifier here, and he's currently P11, and so he's battling to go into Q3 here.
Yeah, I mean, he's been ever so cautious with the gears, and the throttle takes it up to the walls nicely, so he is kind of going to the limit. Just with the throttle, he needs to be a bit more on edge to really get an improvement. 1/10 up so far. 3rd gear through this corner, he drifts wide just a little bit, but that's alright. Into this very tricky right-hand corner, doesn't lock it up, goes a little bit wide in 3rd gear. I'd say that lost some time, honestly, with the high gears. I think you need to be lower here. Anyways, just barely grazing the wall there, and now wants to go to the left a little bit because this wall kind of pokes out. Doesn't matter though, he's into the left-hander, 5th gear in this corner, so very interesting for him. 4th there, but goes deep again. So this might not be an improvement for Quinton Kay. He could be looking at a Q2 exit here, unless he can improve in this corner and the final sector. So, no DRS of course, and going to sector 2 checkpoint now, it will be 1 second improvement, so he might actually be quite safe. That will put him around about P5 right now. So now he's gonna go through these 2 very tricky chicanes. Looks like he's taken this one quite nicely, I must say. Then through here, just almost up into the wall. Cam Bourne goes P1, gets in there, and then Ryan Newton goes into P1. 3 tenths clear of him. We go back with Quinton Kay, a triple chicane section, and then the fast left is all he has to do. So, close to the wall again, 3rd gear set right now, and you almost lose it out of that corner. Then, final corner now. He's crossing the line in just 1 second, and he is gone P3, so he should be safe. Major Castleman might be a little bit scared, though. He's P8 and done with qualifying, so we look at everyone behind him. Hudson Poole is, I don't know if that's correct, he might be 6 seconds down. No, he's 2 tenths up.
Johannes Ludwig has been disqualified for facing the wrong way.
And honestly, I don't think that was for driving the wrong way. I think he just got caught backwards and couldn't get it back facing the correct position. So
yeah,
this
game is still unforgiving in that regards. Let me tell you, it's even since F122. If you slip up, you're facing the wrong way, you better be very quick either to reset the track or getting facing the right way, because otherwise you're in trouble. So that is it for Johannes Ludwig. He is out. Marc-Henri Bastien hits pole. Well, sorry, not pole, but fastest time in Q2, 156.9. Great lap by him and Ryan Newton so far, closer to getting to 156. And I think that is... Oh, that's not it. Actually, Cam Bourne, I think he's still on a fast lap, so he went for a double fast. Got a 157.3, very respectable lap, by the way. Now he's going for more. Hudson Poole, however, has got to improve on his time, Nathan. He's currently P11. He doesn't have to improve by much. He might be able to knock out Sean Moriarty in the Haas down to P11 and getting to Q3 here. And we're going to keep on board with him. He's going around turns 20 and 21 here. There's a McLaren in front. Hopefully it doesn't get too much in the way. The McLaren's clear now across the line. Hudson Poole comes in around turns 22, 23. Cam Bourne 156.8. That's the fastest time. Hudson Poole 157.3. And that is good for P4. Sean Moriarty has been knocked out of Q2, as has Eric Cavallo, as has Stella Repas. Sorry, as has Kyle Blevins as well in P14. So we've got a Red Bull out as well, and Johannes Ludwig, who got disqualified, but I don't think his lap time was fast enough to get through to Q3. So he will be starting P15 on the race grid. Q3 coming out, and this time for real, not because I'm just saying silly things here. We're going to be fighting for pole. And so far, I think Track Evolution and some drivers are showing really promising pace. I'm looking at Cam Bourne. Looks like he's really fitting well with Singapore and these conditions. I think Cam Bourne's a smooth driver here, and it allows him to find the grip nicely here. Macari Bastien as well, who's, by the way, a controller driver. And so kudos to him for having so much control here with a controller. I'm really curious to see if he's thinking on making the switch to wheel, and I think he'd be able to find quite some pace there. So Cam Bourne is just 1100s faster than Bastien here for P1. Ryan Newton, Hudson Poole, Quinton Kay, Chad Swindell, Aaron Altmaier, Marcel Paps, Magnussen Cube, and Major Castleman, all through to Q3. 2 McLarens, 2 Mercedes, and a handful of other drivers are heading on to Q3, and so that's going to be a really interesting session. And I do believe Q3 is also going to be a wet session. Going to keep tabs on that, so that's going to be, again, quite a challenge. I think pole, we're going to start seeing 156 and maybe 155 depending on the conditions. Nathan?
I mean, I think we could honestly improve in front of that, maybe into the 154s. But it will all be up to these drivers and the conditions of the track, of course. As the rain hasn't really let up, but we know that the track will just get warmer and warmer as cars keep on going around it. Rain definitely doesn't look any better than it did in Q2. So
looking
maybe
at telemetry for the weather, just to confirm, we're at, I mean, it's going to improve very slightly, but we're hitting 92% wet. It's storming. It's no bueno, Nathan. It's no bueno.
No bueno indeed. But still, the drivers managed to keep it straight on track. So the Mercedes is first out on the track, and both the Mercedes actually. Hudson Poole is going to be the first man to go on a lap here, so hopefully he can put out a representative time. Then the Ferrari's behind him, behind his teammate, I should say, and the Aston Martin of Aaron Allmeyer. So all these drivers, and I have to say, with this top 10, it will be a very, very neck-and-neck shootout here. I mean, we have the likes of Chad Swindell, who you'd expect to be on pole, and then Hudson Poole, of course, with him as well. I have to say Hudson Poole isn't the best qualifier, but he's amazing in the race. And then we have a bunch of other drivers that are definitely very competent, maybe even looking at pole position. But even after that, it's going to be a huge fight for the top 5 positions here.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, you're right about Hudson Poole being, I mean, maybe a top 5 qualifier, but it depends on, if he's on a good day or not. But on a good day, Hudson Poole could be top 5. Gone are the days where Hudson Poole was consistently on pole, or almost. He had a couple seasons when he joined us where he was really fast and always on pole and basically pulling a Max Verstappen on this league. And then came other kind of drivers. Some came and some went. We know in the engineering booth for Mercedes was Cody Lawrence helping out Mercedes quite a lot, which was our last season's champion. Guys like Chad Swindell, guys like Quinton Kay, first race was basically on a pace to win in Monaco until an incident hurt his race and DNF'd him. Other drivers, and sometimes I wonder, like, if we were able to regroup all those Division 1 winners, those drivers that really had multiple wins, and put them up in a single race, I think that'd be really entertaining and very much an esport pace kind of race, with the likes of Hudson Poole, Cody Lawrence, and etc. But we'll see if if Duncan's listening, which I know he is, maybe he'll think of something. A nice community event for one of the off weekends we'll have, or something of the sort.
Yeah, and make sure to get Labib in there too, because we know he's world class. Anyways, so who was it? It is Hudson Pool first out. We should actually look at these times here and see if they're any better than what we saw in Q2. If I'm being honest, rain looks worse than it did in Q2. I'm not sure with your telemetry what you know about that. There's, something happened with a Ferrari on the main straight. Looked like Marcel Paps had a bit of an off out of the final corner. Doesn't matter. Go back on with Hudson Pool. And he's just seems a bit more cautious, and he's still sliding around a little bit. And it's just he's just crawling along in that Mercedes. I have to say it does look quite beautiful in the night though,
Yeah.
on the black paint. But we still move third gear through that corner, as we saw, I believe it was Quinton K who took fifth. So very interesting change of gears and just a bit of a strategy through these corners here between drivers. But we'll see who goes fastest of all. So I'm going to look at Hudson Pool's time across the second sector here and then go immediately to his teammate. 17.7, Aaron Altmaier has gone off. Ryan Newton, what's it going to be across the line? 17.6. So right now, Ryan Newton, the fastest man on track so far, unless Marco Bastian just one-upped him. Not sure. But these tricky chicanes we go back to in Sector 3, Hudson Pool looks to be taking them very nicely, very cautiously, but still getting good speed through all of these corners. So we'll see. The final left-hander before, well, I guess I should say final left-hander before the final left-hander. And here we go. Bit of a double apex, except you don't even want to hit the apex at all on the second one. 58.3, so a bit off of what we saw before. Ryan Newton going across the line now, and it's going to be a 158.6. Who is behind him? That is, there you go, Marc-Olivier Bastian is P1, 158.2. Quinton K is next across the line. It's going to be a 156.6.
Wow.
1.6 seconds clear. We'll look to see who's after that. Major Castleman going across the line now. He's gone a bit wide out of the final corner. It's 159.2. Chad Swindell is the next. I think I butchered that somehow. Across the line, 156.5. So he is fastest at the moment. And two drivers clearly in a league of their own here.
Yeah, they're way up there. So, really curious to see why. Is that just pure driver pace? Is that setup? Is that what is the explanation for such a difference between those two drivers? And every other driver are in the 158. Major Castleman is the only one in 159. But we've got four drivers who abandoned on the lap. Actually, Magnussen Cube is a late outgoer. He's on his out lap currently. Marcel Paps, Aaron Altmaier, and Cam Bourne are in the pits. I don't think I saw Cam Bourne go out though. I don't know if he's just waiting. So we'll keep an eye on that. So Magnussen Cube is on his out lap. Are the other drivers pushing? Not everyone seems to be on recharge lap. Or going back to the pits to get the fresher set of tires as quick as possible. It's a much shorter session here for Q3. We're already at a little under 5 minutes and a half here. And so drivers who are thinking of going into the pits, it's now or never. Let's do or die for them currently. And Magnussen Q will hop on board with him and the Williams. I've got two Williams across actually in Q3. I completely ignored one of the Williams here. Magnussen Cube is in the top 10 here, so currently P9. He doesn't have a lap settled in, and we'll climb on board and see where he compares to the other drivers currently. Some of them are going into the pit, some of them are on their out laps. Again, Marcel Paps, Aaron Altmaier, and Cam Bourne is still winning in the pit, so he's going for a one-shot deal, I think. Interesting idea.
And won't that be exciting? So Major Castleman just crossing the line now. He really needs to get a move on to the pits here. Actually, he might. How much fuel does he have? Let me see if I can see it on the steering wheel. I think that shows 3.7 laps. I might be wrong about that, but he is going for it. He's gonna recharge this lap and send it the next lap. And Cam Bourne is finally out of the pits, so he's gonna have a kind of a one-shot quality deal here. Let's see what he can do, unless somehow he can get across the line and do two consecutive hot laps whatever it is, it's going to be interesting. You see Magnussen Cube now 17.2 is faster than Hudson Pool was in the Sector 2. So he's going through these final chicanes now. The rain's still kind of pelting down right now. And then under the bridge where the rain will stop for just a second and then back into it you go again.
The real challenge when you look at these drivers here on these wet conditions, it's finding enough rotation, and the line is so fine between finding enough rotation and sliding on your rear tires, which would obviously wear them down even more and potentially overheat them, depending on what tire pressures these guys are running, if they're already on the limits of what the full wets are able to give you. And Magnussen Cube seems like he's found quite a good balance in regards to his tire wear and performance here, but a 157.4. So he's the only driver in the 157s, but at his P3 as the two first ones are in 156. So currently, Chad Swindell in the provisional pole position is 156.5. He's on an outlap. Quentin K has not gone out of the pits yet. I think Magnussen Cube is going for a double fast lap because he's giving it all the beans again. He's definitely got the ERS, the battery to do that again. And we're seeing other drivers going around the track currently, and Mercedes is coming out of the pits, I do believe. Well, both of them are coming out of the pits right now, Hudson Pool and Wright Newton, probably under the call of Cody Lawrence there. Marcel Pabst, I believe he had a fast lap going. I don't know if he invalidated, but he's once again in Sector 2 pushing and trying to get a lap through, so we'll see where he's going there. Aaron Altmaier and Cam Bourne are the two other drivers who yet remain to settle a lap. And I think actually it's Aaron Altmaier who's going to be across the line first. He's going under the bridge here and back out into the final chicane, turns 20 and 21. It's a double left-hander, so it's two corners there for 22 and 23, as Nathan said earlier. And definitely you don't want to hit the apex as you think it's going to bring you, because it's going to push you out towards the right-hand side of the lap of the track. And it's a 157.4, just 300s faster than Magnussen Cube. Aaron Altmaier has currently put himself in P3 and has got time to settle another fast lap. Next across the line is the Williams of Magnussen Cube again, 157.0 for him. So quite an improvement again. Trading places with Aaron Altmaier once again. Next across the line is going to be Marcel Pabst. Nathan, I think the conditions might be getting a little bit better. Obviously, the track is getting worn down a little bit as well. And we'll see how these guys keep improving on their time. Magnussen Cube is going to retire. He doesn't have the juice to keep going again. Marcel Pabst is fifth with a 157.0. So we're seeing a lot of drivers getting into the 157. Chad Swindell behind the Ferrari, starting his fast lap. Quentin K, I believe, is also starting his lap. So he's going to go around in a minute there. So is Marc-Olivier Bastien. I'm looking to see if there's another driver who is starting or finishing, I believe, their lap. And I think Major Castleman is going to be good for a double. Yeah, he's going to have to go again because he's at 158.6 still, has not improved. And is Cam Bourne also on a fast lap? And he is. He's hitting a 156.9. So that's P3 for Cam Bourne currently as well. And so the other drivers are on their final laps, Nathan.
Yeah, and Cam Bourne can do another if he wants, and he is doing just that. Major Castleman does need to improve, but honestly, as a McLaren team principal, I'm happy if he's 10th. I'm happy that we just had two cars into Q3, but it is what it is. So Marcel Pabst, I think, is the one that will be finishing his hot lap. Last, actually, no, it's going to be Aaron Altmaier. So we'll see what he can do. He's invalidated his lap, so we'll go back to Marcel Pabst in the Ferrari here. He's 2/10 up in the first sector. Now in the second sector, where is all the beans for him? It will be 2/10 still improvement. I think he can do a bit better than that, but he goes deep into that tricky right-hand corner. He has got Red Bull right behind him, but he doesn't care about that whatsoever. Into this first chicane. Looks like he's going to be taking it quite nicely. Just a tiny bit of a slide, almost smacking into the wall there, but he doesn't. So he's safe under the bridge now. Into the right-hander. He's not going too quickly. He has a little bit of a slide out of the exit of that one too, and he might have one out of here too. He's got a bit deep and no slide, but he's kept it under control. Now he's going through the left-hander now. Across the line, I think that will be not an improvement. I mean, it is an improvement,
Barely.
but by no margin. Chad Swindell goes
Wow.
first. 6 tenths is the margin that everyone else is trying to chase. Quinton K is going to be the next across the line here, but he goes into the pits. So Chad Swindell currently on pole if it stands like this. Quinton K is also done. Mark Bastian went second. And we'll see. Next person across the line will be Major Castleman in the McLaren. What can he do across the line? Good for P9. Cam Bourne, his McLaren teammate, right across the line in a couple seconds here. He's 2 tenths up in the sector 2 across the line. Now, what will it be for Cam Bourne? It will be good for P4. Then Hudson Poole goes P5, and then Ryan Newton is going to be the last across the line, and he goes
Ooh,
P2.
wow. What a lot by Ryan Newton. Look at that. Just a little bit over 100th behind Chad Swindell, who's completely obliterated the lap times here. 156.0. He's going to be the only driver just about in the 155s. And so it's Chad Swindell on pole, but Ryan Newton on the first row next to him in P2. That's a surprising one, Nathan. And Marc Olivier Bastien Williams, and a very usual driver to be in the top 3 here. And so he's going to be 3rd. Quinton Case 4th. Cam Bourne, great lap for him. It's P5. Hudson Poole in P6. Magnussen Cube 7. Aaron Altmaier, Marcel Paps, and Major Castleman 8, 9, and 10 is rounding up the top 10. I hope the other drivers took a nice, good break, because they're going to take advantage of that for sure. Given the fact that this was a full qualifying, luckily for them and luckily for us, it's going to be a dry race. We're going to have a little bit more pace on the race in just a couple seconds here. A great qualifying show by these guys here, but it's just the beginning. The race is going to be very demanding. We don't know what can happen, because safety car could happen. But first things first, Nathan. Let's take a quick breath. You know what time it is. There you go. Pop that juice box in. I'm going to crack mine open. I've been waiting 3 qualifying sessions for this one.
I'm sure you have.
Oh, that feels good. I'm ready for this race, Nathan.
Wonderful. Okay, so something to talk about. Ryan Newton, who's very quick over, not over the line, but across the line. What am I trying to say here? He's quick off the line. This is what I'm trying to say. And he is on the inside line for this race start. I almost lost out to Logan Dukes in the start, because pole position does mean you're indeed starting first, believe it or not. But that also leaves you quite vulnerable to the inside line if you don't have a great start. So it will all be up to what Ryan Newton can do. Maybe he'll go for an alternate strategy, go on the medium tires like you did, and try and get those positions like you did.
Yeah, medium tire strategy to begin with sounds like a decent idea. Personally, my idea was gaining an advantage after having the medium tires dropping off on the hards at the end of the race. The rain kind of baffled a little bit my strategy there. But yeah, I mean, mediums allowed me to gain positions and gain the lead for almost half the race there. So we'll see how these drivers think about making it work, and we're about to see that right now. And the lights are red, and they're about to go. Out they go. The Singapore Grand Prix is underway right now. Chad Swindell seems to have a great start. Ryan Newton has to battle with Marc-Olivier Bastien, but has the inside line and thus the advantage, as you mentioned earlier, Nathan. And then behind is Hudson Poole, who had a crazy good start. He is in P4. He gained 2 positions, and Aaron Allmer kind of went back a little bit. On the back of the grid, there's already an incident, and it is Freddie Rizal and Maxime Beaulieu. There is in the back of the pack. It looks like they tangled up a little bit and got caught with a couple other drivers. But so far, it's Chad Swindell, followed by Ryan Newton, Marc-Olivier Bastien. We haven't talked about tire strategies. We're going to have a discussion about that more in depth later on in the race, Nathan, because it's quite a tricky one. Let's go look at what these tires are, and everybody's on hards. That's not true. Look at this. Chad Swindell is on mediums. His goal is to break the toe and gain way ahead of everybody, and he's doing that right now. He started on pole, got a great start. He's almost 2 seconds in front of Ryan Newton. There's a sector yellow flag in the back of the hairpin. Something's gone wrong. Something has gone wrong, and it's our usual Beyblade of the night. It is Johannes Ludwig, who's been spinning around even on the wets. Now it's dry, and he's spinning it right round. baby, right round he goes. And so, Chad Swindell's in the lead. Ryan Newton, Marc-Louis Basset, followed by Hudson Poole, who's gained 2 positions. Quinton K, Cam Bourne, Aaron Altmaier, Magnussen Cube, Marcel Paps, and Stelios Repas is your top 10. We're seeing Eric Cavallo in P11. He's usually much further up the grid, but he's the kind of driver who finds pace somewhere in his race somehow and ends up finding a lot of positions. Currently on the medium strategy, as well as Repas, Swindell, and Rosell in the back of the pack.
Yeah, so those medium tires are really working for everyone who's put them on so far. I mean, we have Stelios Repas up 3 positions, Eric Cavallo up 1, Hudson Poole, even though he's on the hard tires, up 2 positions, and then Freddy Reslow is up 1 position. That might be from Johannes Ludwig, who is in the pits now. But still, the field is relatively compact right now. I mean, I think we actually have a DRS train from 3rd all the way down to 18th, so impressive. We see the likes of Magnussen Cube and Marcel Paps really going at it. Side by side through this corner, they make contact, and it looks like the Ferrari will go, and so does the AlphaTauri of Stelios Repas, and now he's down the inside of Marcel Paps. Can he keep it together? No, he can't. But now the Alpine of Eric Cavallo is trying to get past Magnussen Cube. Inside line for that corner is going to do him nicely, but he doesn't have the inside line for this corner. Now he does, though. And so, the 2 medium tire runners are still keeping it going and going through the pack, maybe trying to follow each other through a little bit. And Zesty Stump Hector Ochoa has had maybe a bit of a moment. He's maybe been sent down the inside. Whatever it was didn't help his positions whatsoever. And now we look back to any battles that could be happening right now. And it looks like it's still relatively straightforward and compact, but we still have plenty of drivers that have kind of inched away from each other. Cam Bourne out of DRS, so is Aaron Altmaier, Marcel Paps, and of course Ryan Newton, who is 2 seconds behind Chad Swindell. So Chad Swindell really making these medium tires work. 40.1 for the Red Bull driver, and for Ryan Newton, I couldn't see what kind of lap time it was. 142 for Marcel Paps, though, and he's on the hard tires, so he's about 2 seconds clear of any hard runners right now.
Yeah, and the DRS train is starting to break up a little bit. You have the DRS train who's active now, actually. So Ryan Newton kind of ends up vulnerable to Marc-Louis Basset behind him, and this is where most of the overtakes are going to be happening down this DRS straight. Marc-Louis Basset got closer to Ryan Newton, but not doing the overtake. And all the way down to Quinton. Cam Bourne's kind of broken off a little bit from the Haas. He's still in there. But behind him, Aaron Altmaier is out of the DRS, and so there's kind of splits there. Down to Cam Bourne, and then a second DRS train from Aaron Altmaier all the way down to, I believe, Freddy Rosell, who's joined back in the back of the pack with Maxime Beaulieu. Just Johannes Ludwig, who's unfortunately, he's got no DRS, although he's got clean air, so he's going to try to take advantage of that. On the mediums currently, Cam Bourne almost touching the wall there outside of turn 8. That's a really tight and difficult hairpin. You got to be careful not to spin your rear tires and overheat them coming out of that corner, and he did that beautifully, getting the traction on great on him. But so far, look at the time. Chad Swindell 3.7 seconds ahead, and that's the idea. And I think this is where the tire strategy might work for him. If his mediums give him so much more performance compared to the hards early in this race, as he once again almost dips into the 139s on the fastest lap here, he might be able to, one, undercut Ryan Newton, or do the undercutting lap, and two, well, even if the other drivers behind him get the better pace because they have the lighter fuel loads, the medium tires, well, he's gonna be so far ahead. He's gonna have plenty of room to defend. So we'll see how that goes for him, as that's usually an alternate strategy, and statistics doesn't show it's the best strategy, but if he's able to make it work, I'd love to see this go for now. And there it is, Ryan Newton 4 seconds behind. Still in the back of the pack and in the middle of the pack especially, it's Aaron Altmaier, who's completely under attack by Marcel Paps, who's riding his gearbox there for a second there. And Marcel Paps might have the opportunity to make the move, as really Aaron Altmaier, I think he's holding up maybe the grid right now. The distance between him and Cam Bourne is really getting greater and greater. And if you're the Ferrari driver of Marcel Paps, you want to get past him as quick as possible.
Yeah, and we'll see if he can do it into this corner here. He doesn't go on the battery. Now he does, but I don't know if that'll be enough to get past in this corner. It won't be, he knows that. And it will be up to these next kind of overtaking spots to all be assisted by DRS. So Marcel needs to get past and then try and improve his lap times to get close to Cam Bourne, who has actually gotten a bit closer to Aaron Altmaier. Aaron Altmaier doing a good job of just kind of closing the gap right now. And I believe Cam Bourne must have had a moment because he's dropped back kind of from Quinton K now. So Ryan Noon, 4 point, around about 5 seconds now off of Chad Swindell, as Marcel Paps goes very wide, still wide. He might have gotten track limits warning for that. Either way though, he is still on the battery through these corners, so I can't say that could be helping him whatsoever. Could even maybe have a bit of a moment out of these corners. Turns it off now, thankfully. And now we'll see if he can overtake into this corner. He has to overtake as soon as he can, and it doesn't look like he has enough to do it on this particular occasion. Era Carvalho is trying to overtake Stelios Repas, who defends beautifully, and still trying to round the outside, stays on track. Will he go for a dive bomb here? No, he won't, and Era has to wait just a tiny bit longer here.
Yeah, Repas did a really good job at defending in that situation, and this is not our first Singapore rodeo here, and I remember multiple occasions down that corner back after they having DRS into that fast left-hander there. Eric Cavallo is quite aggressive and really likes to make his overtaking moves there. Despite, in the past getting penalties and making contact there, turn 7 is his corner he likes, and we've got a full safety car. Who is out? Is that Freddie Rizal, who's... Yeah, it looks like Freddie Rizal, and there's even Maxime Beaulieu who's gone off as well. So I'm wondering if the two drivers may have tangled again. Maxime Beaulieu doesn't look like he's got damaged front wing. And Freddie Rizal, well, he's clearly donated his front wing to the corner of a track somewhere back there because it's gone. He's going to have to go into the pits. And that is a full safety car. And that safety car, if you're Chad Swindell... Ooh, you're not happy with Freddie Rizal because maybe that is not the best moment to get one because he had such a gap on Ryan Newton and he's going to lose that now.
Yeah, so 5 seconds will be gone now. Does Eric Cavallo go into the pits? We do have a few pitters. Who is that into the pits? So Stelios Repas, Eric Cavallo. Is there anyone else in the pits? I don't think so. But these two definitely thought it was time to come in. But now, Chad Swindell, I mean, does he think that maybe his medium tires can just go a bit further now? Is that what he's going for with these medium tires? Because now he really has to build up a gap. I mean, he's done 5 laps on these tires, so they're dropping off just a tiny bit. But those hard tires are still in prime condition, so he needs to be very careful about what he does here. He either just goes for it entirely and goes as fast as he can for as long as he can, and then just hope it's enough of a gap to stay in front for long enough to win the race, or he will lose to Ryan Noon here.
Yeah, it's really an interesting situation there with Chad Swindell. I mean, the medium tires could run a long time. That's one of the things, right? The medium tires technically are the better tires and can run as fast, if not a little faster than the hards, for much longer than we expect them to, even past the drop-off point. So, I mean, he's gonna make them last. I'm actually curious about the likes of... Well, actually, we have a really interesting strategy going on. Stelios Repas went back on the mediums, so he's got a fresh set of mediums, to which he's gonna have to pit again. So it's gonna be a 2 pit stop strategy for him. Maybe secretly praying for yet another safety car. Eric Cavallo is on the hards, so he's put himself in a position where he's either pulling the hards all the way till the end of the lap of the race, or if there's another situation that happens near the end of the race, maybe could take advantage of the softs. But probably with the wiser choice of going back on the mediums, if he does have an extra set. So now with the safety car, we've got different drivers having different strategies, but for the most part, Chad Swindell is not pitting. He's going to keep going on his mediums, and everybody down to Maxime Beaulieu, down to P15, are on the hard tires on which they started with. Still waiting for Freddie Rizal and Jonas Ludwig to catch up to the rest of the pack. They are quite far from the pack, so that might happen hopefully by the end of this lap at the pace they're going. I think Johannes will have plenty of time to catch up. And that means we should have the race restart at lap 8. And the guys that just pitted may take advantage of that with the fresher tires. Because that advantage between... I'm expecting a guy like Stellus Repas, who's got the medium tires versus 6-lap-0 hards. I think he's going to be flying out on the track. He's just going to have to be really careful and pick his moments on when he wants to do those overtakes, because this is a narrow track, and these guys know how to defend and position their cars for the defense.
Yeah, and I was wondering, do you think that Stelios Repas could go far enough to maybe even try out the soft tires? And I know that might be crazy because we know Singapore is very difficult on the tires, but at this point, I either see him pitting with all the hard tire runners and then losing out on the hard tires that he'll put on eventually, or maybe trying to risk it and go on the soft tires. What do you think will happen as we have Hector Ochoa? What is going on with Mans himself? And he's spun around, so he has lost multiple positions in that. And now Alpine, who I think are second in the championship, if I'm not mistaken, are now 16th and 18th.
Yeah, it's a backwards world throughout all divisions, by the way, so far in regard to results. But to answer your question, Nathan, we saw in Division 2, and we also saw in Division 3 drivers trying to go for the softs. After 4 or 5 laps, the softs overheat and lose so much performance. They become way worse than the mediums. So yeah, they're really strong to begin with, but by the time you get DRS after the safety car, which is 2 laps after the safety car, the soft tires end up overheating tremendously. Unless somebody out there has a setup that allows them to not overheat them. But in the other divisions, softs were really a terrible choice. Honestly, a terrible choice. This is a situation where the mediums and the hards are the racing tires. And we're going to go another full lap because we're still waiting for Johannes Ludwig to catch up to the rest of the pack.
Yeah, and I mean, he's been through his own fair troubles here. So he's spun around, I think, on lap 1, and then he had to pit, and then he pit again. So that is why he's so far behind, and that's why he's put out the safety car for another lap. I have to say, though, this is only helping the hard tire runners here. Yeah, those medium tires will be quite nice, but again, you'll still have to pit and maybe lose some performance, honestly, because if you go a bit further on these medium tires and you only have to put on the hard tires for longer, then you're up against very fresh mediums that won't drop off as much as they normally would. So, Stelios Repas and Chad Swindell are not in a good position right now.
Yeah, it's gonna be something we're worth watching, and that's a badly timed safety car for Chad Swindell, and I'm wondering, he's gonna go for it. I think he's very confident in his pace. If he could get that 5-second gap that he had on Wright Newton, again, that might help him on the undercut. And that was, I mean, it's a far-fetched comparison, but that was maybe my idea when I was on the mediums and I was driving in front of you, Nathan, so I was in P1 and you're in P2 behind me, and my goal was ultimately to try to keep you away from me and increase that gap past the DRS, gain as much as possible, because I wanted that buffer for when I would have the hards and I knew would have the better grip, and then things happen, and that didn't happen the way I was hoping it would work. So maybe that's the idea behind Chad Swindell's strategy currently, and maybe the reason why he did not dive into the pits as a safety car is going to be going in the pits. So he's not diving into the pits, the safety car is actually. So let's get on board with Ryan Newton. I'll get on the onboard camera here. We've seen drivers in the other divisions this weekend absolutely knock it out of the park, have crazy good restarts, and we'll see if Chad Swindell could be able to get one right now.
I think Marvelita Bastion will actually have it here, but we'll see. Safety restart is go, and no one really had an epic restart, honestly, so we haven't had what we were expecting. We look back, and it looks like Magnussen Cube is the only one who's gotten an advantage out of this, goes down the inside, and Marcel Paps shoves him wide off the track, and Marcel Paps will try and rejoin. He's around the outside of the
Ooh.
Williams now, and he's gone into the wall, and now he'll still have the inside line. Willie can see the position, though no, he won't. Still down the inside, and Magnussen Q might be looking into the wall as a bit of what's it called, retaliation from the Ferrari, but now he's completely lost the position. Now he's lost the position now to Major Castleman, and now he's going around the outside as Major Castleman. Now he's going to have the inside line, and he concedes the position, so that is all right. Kyle Blevins trying to make up positions, and he makes contact with not Mark Sebastian. I have no idea who that is. Sean Moriarty, I think it was. And so, a bit more battles here. I think the Alpines are trying to make up positions here. Down the inside on Maxime Beaulieu goes Hector Ochoa. And that is pretty much it. So Chad Swindell has gapped Ryan Newton by 1 second once again. I think Ryan's trying to go on the battery to try and get that back, and Chad Swindell has actually used up around about 40% of his battery, so that is why he's looking at such a gap. He really wants to get out of the DRS as soon as possible. But now the pack is nice and bunched up. Major Castleman gets a 3-second time penalty. So unfortunate, especially if you're looking at it from my point of view. But it is what it is. Racing's racing, and we move on.
Absolutely. And so far, I mean, looking at the drivers who had pitted during the safety car, if you look back at Sergio Repas and Eric Cavallo, gained a couple positions so far, but not that many to begin with. But that mid-pack is tough to race with, and now Repas is looking to get past his teammate of Colin Edwards, and that looks like it's done cleanly here. So good teamwork on the boys, and so he's let loose now, and he's going to be on the attack mode behind Kyle Blevins, who had a little bit of a contact with the Haas of Sean Moriarty. It doesn't look like there's any damage that was done to the cars there. A little bit of a pinch after turns, what was that, turn 8, I believe? So quite a difficult one, but look at this. Chad Swindell is now 1.6 seconds ahead of Ryan Newton still. So story of the night so far, mediums versus hards. Mediums are winning, but on the second half of the race, that's going to be a different story, and there's might be a situation here on the inside. Whoa, Stelios Repas is trying to bump up Kyle Blevins and really took a terrible spot to go for it, and he spun himself around. That was not... Oh boy, Division 3 racecraft right there. That was not the greatest spot to try to go for an overtake, and Kyle Blevins defended and kept his position, and that brings Stelios Repas all the way back to the back of the pack there, and that is also damage for him, so he's got to pit again. So that's going to set him off way behind everybody else. Eric Cavallo does gains a position. He does a switch between him and his other teammate Hector Ochoa. And I don't know if Kyle Blevins also has damage. Looks like he's okay for now, but Kyle Blevins has, in 2 laps, had a contact with a Haas and then had an AlphaTauri dive bomb him in a corner that really wasn't an overtaking corner. And so he comes out of there unscathed, luckily for him, still in P12. He's going to try to come back into this one.
Yeah, I mean, Stelios Repas, he just went in a corner that you don't go for. I mean, if there's a gap that exists and you don't go for it, you're not a racing driver anymore. But, I mean, that gap very, very suddenly did not exist anymore. He went into the wall, rebounded off, and straight into Kyle Blevins and back into the wall he went. So, Marcel Paps and Aaron Allmeyer going at it again. We've seen these two battle quite a lot. Marcel just conceding the position again, gives Aaron Allmeyer a little love tap here. And we'll see if any other battles are happening. It's very difficult to overtake on this track other than the main overtaking spots. And that is very evident. I mean, even if you try it, we know exactly what happened. And we saw that last lap. So, right now I'm just looking at all these gaps. I think right now we could be looking at a potential Mercedes double podium. Because Hudson Poole has so much battery as Marcel Paps gets overtaken by Magnussen Cube. And now he's got the McLaren behind him for company, and down the inside goes Major Castleman. Can he keep the move? Doesn't look like he will be able to, but it was worth an effort just to kind of split away the Ferrari a little bit and gain an advantage. And now Major Castleman still follows. I believe that was Maxime getting past Hector Ochoa, bumping him again. anyways, back at the front here. So Ryan Newton 2 seconds behind, gaining just a little bit through those final two corners. So good on him for that. Then behind him, Michael Bastian is on course for a third consecutive podium in this season so far.
Yeah, Marc Olivier has been so constant. Near the end of last season, he really started to get on his groove in F122 and really translated it back into F123. And now, right now, he's not on the ERS, but he's getting himself in proper position to maybe attack Ryan Newton in front of him eventually in a couple of laps. Once you go around turns 5 and you hit the DRS, the driver in front of you, if he's about, I'd say 4/10 ahead of you, you could be really confident in making a move down into the next corner in turn 7. And so I think McAvee was just a little bit behind, but he's definitely in a position to do that next lap. And doing so only helps Chad Swindell. If Marc Olivier starts battling with Ryan Newton, depending on where he chooses to do so, that slows down Ryan, that slows down Marc Olivier at some point, and Swindell only gains a gap. And if Marc Olivier also wants to do an offensive move towards Ryan Newton, he's got to be careful because behind him, Hudson Poole is also right on his tail. And so these three drivers are, these four drivers, let me add Quinton Kay to the mix actually. All four of these drivers are really close in the pack together. And so you got to choose your moment when you want to make the overtake.
Yeah, exactly. And then right behind him, I mean, Camborne, right now he's kind of in a situation where he's not exactly fast enough to keep in with the top 5, but he's not slow enough to drop down to P7. So kind of in that P6 territory right now. And still plenty of DRS trains to go around. All these drivers know how critical it is to have the DRS. So let's go on board. Oh, actually, as Hudson Poole makes a little bit of contact with Marco Bastian, which won't help him at all. What's the yellow flag for? Do you see anything going on here?
Looks like an Alpine in the back. It is Hector Ochoa who seemed to have an incident. Turns 22-23, maybe a little bit of a spin from what I'm seeing.
Outside goes Poole, and they make a bit of contact. Sorry to interrupt. And we have more incidents happening in the back. Aaron Allmeyer and Magnussen Cube still going wheel to wheel. And down the inside goes Aaron Allmeyer. Does he make the move stick? Yes, but a lot of contact made. And now the Ferrari will try to get in on the action here. He could have a big switchback, Marcel Paps here, and he does so on the Aston Martin now down the inside into this next corner, and we'll have it. And then behind him, Sean Moriarty and Major Castleman make contact. Shot off the track was Major Castleman, making him lose a bunch of positions, and into the wall goes Alfa Romeo.
Wow!
And through goes Major Castleman through a gap that was so suddenly there, and Freddie Razzle causing carnage and sending Sean Moriarty all the way back down to 14th place. And now Eric Cavallo is trying down the inside of the McLaren, and now he's being tried around the outside by Freddie Razzle. What is going on here in this back of the pack? We've been focusing on the front, but there's so much to look at in the mid-pack here.
Yeah, Freddie Razzle, I don't know if he's giving a position back. Yeah, is that what he's doing? Because he kind of moved over and let the Red Bull go by, so I don't know if he's giving a position back to Sean Moriarty, and something has happened in the back. Is it Marc-Olivier Basset who was in the pits? So Marc-Olivier Basset, lap 12, he is in the pits. First car, and Freddie Razzle, I believe, also maybe in the pits. Oh, he's completely beached. So as usual, Freddie is not on track. He's at the beach, and that is that. Speeding across the pit lane because he's not thinking that it is 60 kilometers an hour limit, and that is a rage quit retirement, an Alta 4 situation for those who know that shortcut. If you don't know it, don't try it in the middle of a race, because that's what Freddie Razzle just did. And he's gone. Does that trigger any kind of no safety car? I'm seeing, and that'll be it for him. Colin Edwards did have a moment earlier on, just coming out of turns 5. And, oh my goodness. Coming out of the pits, he's still missing an end plate. And so that's back in the pits. He's got to go to fix that end plate on his front wing. Colin Edwards is living the Alpha Tauri nightmare. Him and Stellis Stelios also back into the pits and not moving there. Is that going to be another retirement for him? It is a retirement for Stellis Repas, possibly. I mean, that's the better call for him because with the situation we saw earlier, it was possible possible penalty, post-race penalty happening there. So back in the middle of the pack where most of the action is happening. Currently, that mid-pack is led by Magnus and Cube. Magnus and Cube, who had overtaken Marcel Pass and Aaron Altmaier in their scuffle earlier on. Major Castman is there as well. And now we got cautions in Sector 2s and 3. There's another car that is off. Is that... It looked like it was a minor sector for Sean Moriarty. And, by the way, Chad Swindell, there's a lot going on at the same time right now. It's hard to follow. But Chad Swindell just went into the pits for hards. And so, Macaulay Basset tried to go for the undercut. We're going to find out where he is. He's going across the line now. He's on the mediums. And this is where the strategy plays out. He's just around turns 1 and just ahead of him. That is Chad Swindell. He's already back on his gearbox, and he's going to have the DRS advantage. Chad Swindell does not have any heat into those tires. It doesn't take a lot to get heat into them, but definitely the performance will be on the Williams side. He's got the battery power. He's got the DRS as well. Around on the left-hand side, he goes. He's going to get the inside corner on turn 7. Keeps it clean. Chad Swindell is going to try to get the inside on the next corner and kind of goes for a little bit of a dive bomb. There's a bit of contact as well. Side by side they go. And Marc Olivier is really doing it all he can to defend, and he succeeds in doing so. A little bit of a wiggle to touch Chad Swindell. Not liking that little bit of contact there was there for Chad Swindell's dive bomb. And
battery too.
Yeah, he's
doesn't turn off the battery.
If he's letting his emotions get the better of him, and battery's not turned off, and now he's all over the back of Sean Moriarty, whose pace is completely dropped off. He's now sitting behind Johannes Ludwig, and Sean Moriarty holding back. Chad Swindell is maybe the best thing that Marc-Olivier Basset could have asked for in this kind of situation. And Chad is going to have to do everything he can to get past them, and he will do that now. And so finally, Marc-Olivier gets Chad Swindell off of his back, and Magnussen Cube, who's in P6, is having a decent race so far. Speeds in the pit lane, so that's a 5-second time penalty. Drivers who have not prepared properly for this race. It is a shorter pit lane speed than normal. We're usually looking at an average of 80 kilometers an hour on pit lanes, but since this is a much tighter pit lane, a much shorter one in Singapore, it is 60. And some cars, some drivers are getting caught out in that regards. And we're seeing our first driver on the softs, Colin Edwards in P17. Hey, he's got nothing to lose. He's going to go for a faster lap. And he's on the softs currently. And have the grid has switched to medium tires, and so now it's a reverse strategy. We're going to see most of the drivers going to be on the mediums, Nathan, and now other drivers such as Chad Swindell are on fresher hards, and we'll have to see how that's going to work out for them.
Yes, absolutely. And so between Camborne and Quentin K, Quentin, he got past the Alpine Effector Ochoa, but Camborne wasn't so lucky. So now that is why 1.5 seconds is the gap. Both McLarens with time penalties, and right now that will really affect their race. But we go back to kind of the front here, and there's an incident. Where has that happened?
Looks like Hector Ochoa has dropped down completely, and it's not the first time we see him lose it in that area of the track. I don't know if there's contact though, and his front wing looks intact, at least from the sky view here. What a beautiful camera angle.
What is going on in the front here? So between Marc-Olivier Bastien and Chad Swindell, they're really, Chad is really frustrated trying to get past this Aston Martin here, but look how slow this Aston is going, and he's watching his chances at a win slip away right now. And as Marc-Olivier Bastien flies past, and there he goes with the DRS and ERS now, so he's got to recover 2 seconds. And now, with Ryan Newton in the pits, there's only 2 people left to pit, and that will really kind of decide this race. But Chad Swindell, he is kind of improving on his time, or he's catching Marc-Olivier Bastien, as I should say, on the hard tires. So this could be either a really impressive showing for the Red Bull driver, or very close to hard break. And now Johannes gets past Maxime. Let me check these tires here. So Johannes definitely can make it to the end, I don't think. Neither can Maxime. And I was just confused for a second, because I know Johannes was at the back for so long, and now he's in P5. So with all these cars needing to pit still, this battle between, well, everyone is not over yet.
Yeah, and Hudson Pool is leading the race currently. So there's two things going on right now, okay? Hudson Pool, 60 lap holds hards. I don't know if he's going to go in the pits now. Oh, he just tapped a wall, actually. Just a little bit of a light tap. Doesn't look like there's any damage. I think that he's starting to struggle for grip a little bit on his hards, and into the pits he goes. So we'll see where that settles him back on track. However, look at this. Quinton K on the Haas. Oh, Hudson Pool speeds. Hudson Pool gets a 5-second penalty. That hurts him tremendously. What I was about to say, Nathan, is Quinton K had undercut Ryan Newton. He's in front of him. Now, Ryan has the fresher tires, but the undercut definitely worked for Quinton. And he's all over the back of Maxime Beaulieu, who dives into pits, and he's going to get DRS off of the driver in front of him, who is Johannes Ludwig, who still has to pit. And now Hudson Pool, even with the penalty, he finds himself back on track, this time in P8, and so he has to overtake the likes of Cam Bourne and Ryan Newton if he wants to look at potential lead.
Look at this fight between Quinton K, Ryan Newton, and Johannes Ludwig. And now, what has happened? Hector Joa retires in the pits. 3-second time penalty for Sean Moriarty. And now we look at this fight, and look how slow Johannes Ludwig is at the moment. He's losing so much time, and now Cam Bourne might even go for an overtake here. He just barely has the pace, but no battery to make an overtake there. So Cam Bourne will only lose time, and just look how much the Ferrari is holding him up. There's nothing he can do here. Will he go for a dive bomb into this left-hand corner? No, which is as smart, I have to say. But gets great traction out of that corner, and now clears the Ferrari. So next to clear this Ferrari is Hudson Pool, but 1.8 seconds, the gap will probably be closed in one lap, to be honest. But we'll see what he can do, because this is only going to hurt Hudson Pool, especially with his 5-second time penalty. He's got a lot of ground to cover if he even wants to think about a top 5 finish right now.
Yeah, there's a battle for the lead currently. Eric Cavallo, who had the provisional lead, despite still having to work his strategy, and he has to move off pace a little bit for Marc-Olivier Bastien, who was all over his gearbox, and right behind him it's Chad Swindell, and so Chad got to catch up back to Marc-Olivier there, and now Marc-Olivier is going to be completely vulnerable. He's made the move maybe a little bit early, because now he's got no DRS and barely any battery. He's going to try to defend, I think, on Chad Swindell, and so the lead is going to go back to the Red Bull drive. No, it's not, surprisingly. I'm rather shocked about that, because he was, I don't know if Chad had a little bit of a moment there. Maybe Marc-Olivier got a little bit lucky now, and Chad is wide into that corner as well, and Marc-Olivier retains the lead to this Grand Prix, and so quite a switch around in the lead. We saw Chad Swindell running away with it. Now he might be struggling to keep his tires either warm enough or performant enough to keep track to Marc-Olivier Bastien. There's also a Sector 2 flag, trying to figure out what that is going on as I'm describing at the same time. And so Bastien's, and look at that, it's 9/10 ahead, and so he's really fighting to get past that DRS timeline there for Chad Swindell. And then back it's Eric Cavallo, and now maybe we'll look at how that plays out for them. But there's already 2 battles going on, Marc-Olivier versus Chad, and then we have Quinton versus Ryan as well.
Marc-Olivier versus the Chad. So 5/10s, now 7/10s. It's really kind of changing around this gap between Chad Swindell and Marc-Olivier Bastien. So even if Marc-Olivier Bastien were to take P2, it'd be his 3rd in a row, which I think could maybe grant him P1 in the championship, with Hudson Pool being so far back. And now Hera is going to get passed by Quinton K here, as he would say. And Hudson Pool gets the fastest lap, and now his teammate is trying down the inside of Eric Cavallo, shoving him away to pass him. So, a bit of interesting racecraft from the Mercedes driver, but it is what it is. We move. And so we go back to the battle for the lead, and Chad Swindell isn't really going for it. I'm kind of confused on what his strategy is here. Maybe he's trying to save the battery a little bit and then just take it away from him when his tires are gone. Maybe that's the call here. Either way, though, it's going to be very, very tough to get past the Williams driver on current pace right now.
Yeah, it's all about the tire strategy and how much of it, and it's going to be an interesting. That's what makes this Grand Prix interesting, right? Because it's all about being fast and having the racecraft, but the tire strategy seems to be super important here. Where, as I said earlier, usually going on the alternate strategy of going from mediums to hards isn't the best or the fastest strategy to go for. It looks really tempting, and I say that because I did it. I personally did it. The medium tires gave me the race lead in the first half, and I think Chad Swindell is living a little bit of what I was living, where once on the hards, everybody on the mediums have way better pace, and you're looking more behind you than in front of you at some point. Ryan Newton gets a 3-second time penalty, so both Mercedes, in the situation they are now, as well as Cam Bourne, by the way, have penalties. It's a 5-second for Hudson Poole, 3 seconds for Ryan Newton, Cam Bourne, Major Castleman, both McLarens with penalties, as is for the Haas of Sean Moriarty. And for how tight the pack is currently, these time penalties are quite hurtful.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the two McLarens with their time penalties. I mean, I think Cam Bourne will be safe, and he might even gain a position if he can stay within 2 seconds of Hudson Poole.
And here's the move for the lead. Chad Swindell on the inside of Marc Olivier, and he's going to make it stick. Marc-Olivier Basset is going to try on the outside, and Chad Swindell almost puts himself into the wall, and he retires, but he doesn't. Oh my goodness! Marc-Olivier Basset is out of the race. He's completely rammed into the wall. Complete controversy, and we have a safety car. Marc-Olivier Basset on pace for a potential win, or P2 gets completely crushed into the wall by the race leader.
That is unbelievable.
Wow.
Marc-Olivier Basset, from the lead of the race to great switchback, has been absolutely slammed into the wall, into the Tech Pro, and now he has disappeared. So that is going to be some crazy controversy. That I have no idea what that could be like in the stewards room. I would say that's, for me at least, that's a 5-second time penalty and a couple of penalty points, but that will be resolved after the race, and a full safety car now to bunch up the pack for good measure. And that'll help people like Eric Carvalho, who can now pit onto the medium tire very comfortably here.
And with 10 laps to go, it might actually help Chad Swindell if he wants to switch back to the medium compounds and have the advantage over everybody else and make some overtakes. That could be working for him. It really looked like he locked up those tires and he was going straight towards that wall. And look at that, Chad Swindell is indeed going into the pits. I don't know if he's got maybe damage that we don't see on the wing. We'll keep an eye on that, but I think he's going to go back on the mediums, try to get the advantage there. And that's not a good showing for Red Bull. And in the stewards, I think this might be looked at as a major collision. And we might be looking at more than just a 5-second time penalty, Nathan. But I'm going to put my stewards cap on tomorrow if I feel like it. Because we have other stewards to look into it normally. Yeah, that is quite a situation, unfortunately. And as I predicted, Chad Swindell is going to go in for a fresh set of medium tires, as does a lot of drivers. What kind of surprises me, Aaron Altmaier, Magnussen Cube, Cal Blevins, they're going on to the softs.
Yeah, I mean, 9 laps to go. I mean, you got light fuel loads, and now you're going to be behind the safety car for a couple laps. If I'm being honest, it's not the worst strategy, but I think the medium tires will just hold up a little bit better. And so now, I mean, of course I'm looking at McLaren 3-4, but at the same time, it's going to be very difficult for them to keep behind the likes of Hudson Poole, Marcel Pabst, and Aaron Altmaier, especially with the time penalties. If they don't get a move on very quickly, they could even be down in maybe not even the top 10 if all the field stays together. But we have plenty of time to wait for the field to bunch up. I mean, Colin Edwards is just not even across the line yet for the lead lap, so you got plenty of time to wait, and maybe that was a call for the soft tire runners. I'd say maybe it actually was a great strategy.
Yeah, it might be. I don't know if Chad Swindell, I mean, given the fact that so many drivers went onto the fresh mediums, Chad Swindell's looking to get past 3 cars that are on, well, if he wants to get back into the lead, it's 4 cars, right? But the 3 cars ahead of him all have time penalties. So worst case scenario, you just stick with him, and you're in good chances of going for the win. One thing, however, behind him, you have Hudson Poole, who has served his 5-second speeding penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And sitting in P6, Hudson Poole might be on the charge here, as we've seen Hudson Poole do that quite a times in Division 1, late in the race, and do some late lunges for the win.
Yeah, so interestingly, Duncan is pleading for a racing incident for that. He does say that the car straight lined when Mark ran into him, but if you look into it, that, I mean, at least from my point of view, Chad really threw it into the corner, dive bombed it entirely, and then, I mean, you can't blame Marc Sebastian for turning in because he thought he was safe, but no, I mean, there's a Red Bull on the inside of the corner before he even had a chance to react to that, so I don't know about this. It's very controversial, this incident, but the race isn't over yet. Chad Swindell just has to really start booking it, and if best case scenario, he gets the lead and sprints off 10 seconds and wins even with a penalty, but at this point, it's looking not too great for the Red Bull driver.
It's an interesting call to put the blame on Marc Olivier, saying the contact forced the driver to go straight. You know, I mean, both drivers normally would be turning right. One of them went straight on into the wall, so it is what it is. We'll be moving on from that. Luckily, Duncan isn't a steward, so that'll be in the steward's room later this week, and that's how it's going to be looked at, and that it is what it is. You know, you expect the team principal to do anything and everything, and I think that's expected from team principals to defend their driver. We see it in tickets every single week where clearly there's a driver at fault, and the team principal is going to try to plead the case. But you know, it's that was viewed live. It happened very quickly, so you know the replays are gonna have to be looked at very often. The only thing that's left to be said is to remind the drivers to keep it civil in the general chats, and then keep it in the tickets. I don't think it was. I mean, let's make it clear. I don't think it was a dirty move itself. I think it honestly is a racing incident in the kind of way that I think he locked up and had nowhere to go. So that's the kind of situation we had here.
Chad pits again for soft tires.
Okay.
Okay. And for a front wing, so maybe that was why he pits after all.
Wow, so he did have damage. Interesting. So yeah, he can't race with damage. Maybe now everybody's looking at Chad Swindell and trying to find any way to penalize the driver. Better change that front wing, because if you're driving with damage on, that's no bueno. That's no bueno. So now he's on softs. He's in the back of the pack. I don't know if that is done on purpose or not. I don't know how Chad feels about it, but that is going to be the talk of the week. Before and after the verdicts will be posted later on this week. Moving on, we're still looking at Quinton K. A Haas possibly looking for a race win. Although Ryan Newton has a time penalty behind him, he's on a lot fresher tires here. So with a little over 7 laps to go, and I think this lap the safety car should be going in. We'll see how this plays out, and especially how it's going to play out for the drivers behind Hudson Poole, Marcel Paps, Aaron Altmaier, who are on the fresh tires. I'm really curious to see the pace between the softs and the mediums. I think Aaron Altmaier might have the better pace on Marcel Paps, and they've been fighting it out the entirety of the race. Slight bumps here and there, but mostly clean from our point of view. However, overheating on the soft tire happens 3 laps into the stint, so we'll see how that goes. Safety car is going to be called in. And now we've got Marcel Paps with a severe collision with Hudson Poole. So Marcel Paps, I don't know if it was actually a collision or maybe a bit of a lag moment as we've seen 2 weeks ago in Hungary. But unfortunately, yeah, that's an incident. Maybe that's going to be looked at the end of the race because he doesn't have to pit again. He might be able to get it removed. But not putting himself in a good position for the end of the race, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we know Marcel has some issues with lag in the past, but now we are back to a similar situation. Ryan Noon will be second, and looking for that beautiful safety car restart that we were looking for last time out. Will he get it this time? Who knows?
I
You
think
know
he's
who
gonna
I'm
get it.
rooting
He's gonna
for,
do
of
what
course.
Shirai did in Division 3. He's gonna start it out right here, actually. And off he goes, and that's where Shirai actually caught everybody off guard in Division 3. Quinton K was his engineer, and he's gonna make it work. Look at the timetable between Quinton K and Ryan Newton, almost a full second down into turn 1 they go. There's no DRS, by the way. And on the inside of Major Castleman, Hudson Poole goes for P4. Quinton K has passed the 1 second threshold for DRS and lost it immediately after, and that's another 3-second time penalty for Major Castleman. Marcel Paps also goes ahead of Major Castleman, and there's an incident again, and as Major Castleman around he goes, and he is now dead last, P15 currently with 2 penalties. That would look like a bit of a contact there. We'd have to see how severe of contact it did happen between both of them. Chad Swindell taking advantage of the situation, getting position on Colin Edwards as well. He's going to be a driver flying through the grid, but there's a lot of drivers in front of him fighting, and so he's got nowhere to go. He's got to be patient, and when you're on soft tires, you got no time to be patient. And so we'll see how Chad Swindell has to handle with that, but so far, Quinton K with a massive launch off the straight, almost gaining himself a full second. He's got the advantage on Ryan Newton.
Yeah, now looks like Hudson Poole will go around the outside of the other McLaren. Camborne will face no threat from the Mercedes driver until he did, of course. Now he sees it ahead. Now it's a Mercedes double podium with one of them having a penalty. So it's all about this race victory. Probably for Hudson Poole, I have to say. With his new medium tires, it will be very, very much better for Hudson Poole to get past Quinton K and his teammate, of course. But we will see in these next couple laps. I think it'll be done under DRS conditions. Let's see if the Mercedes swap positions, though, going into this next corner, though.
They most definitely should. I think we can see Ryan Newton move over on the middle of the track. Or maybe not. Maybe it's going to be done on the second DRS zone. A bit surprised about that because now Hudson Poole has got to... He's all over the back, and he's driving into his teammate's dirty air there, so I think the call should have been made a little bit earlier. However, Quinton K is struggling a little bit. He's lost a big portion of advantage, and could Hudson Poole make the move work now? He's getting closer. He's finally passed his teammate. It's not working out for him right now. Now Quinton K is definitely going to be looking at the Hudson Hornet, who has he's got us used to doing those kind of lunges at the end of the race, the tire advantage, and look at him all over the back of Quinton K. Quinton is a bit under pressure, not really working too good for him. I don't know if he's overheated his tires. Hudson Poole has taken the lead outside of that corner, and so look at him just flying out across, and tire advantage is really working for that Mercedes. Quinton K is going to try to regain that position, but it's not massive restart for Quinton K. It worked great for him. I don't know if he's fighting overheating tires or if it's just a performance that's not giving it to him right now. He seems to have lost all pace.
I mean, now it's maybe on for Mercedes 1-2 here if Ryan Newton can really make it happen, because Marcel Paps and Cam Borden both have penalties behind, so beyond Quinton K, it is all for position here with these drivers. So we'll go on board here with Ryan Newton, who's already on the battery in place you normally wouldn't expect, just trying to get any kind of advantage that he can onto the battery again, and I think we'll see him overtake very, very soon. But we also need to look at Marcel Paps. He's very good through the Sector 1, so we'll see if he can maybe follow Ryan Newton through on Quinton K here. Very, very few margins setting these drivers apart here. Now, with the DRS onto the battery will be the overtake for Ryan Newton that he needs to make this Mercedes 1-2. No, it won't be. He just doesn't have the pace in a straight line. He was too far back when the straight started, and that is what he gets. Going over that curve, maybe losing him a bit of time to Marcel Paps, who's right on his gearbox now. Marcel is just a bit quicker here. I think that might be due to his newer tires. Either way, this Mercedes 1-2 is still in a bit of a threat here. And of course, Quinton K, without all these penalties, he could still be looking at maybe a P2, maybe a P3, whatever it is, it's going to be a good position for him if he can keep it straight on track.
Yeah, most definitely. And in the back, Chad Swindell's in P11, and he's already fighting his tires. It was in the back of Sean Moriarty again, and he still is, and he's trying to find the proper angle, and the Haas driver keeps putting it in position, and this time brings it too deep. I think the Haas driver even hit the wall there, and now Cop Levin's going to try to take advantage of the situation. It's supposed to be a double pass for the Red Bulls. Terrible situation for the Haas driver. I was just about to say, Swindell's tires seem to not be performing exactly as he wants it to be, as he slid in a couple corners. Yeah, he's just throwing his car into the corners and driving super aggressively in order to make up the positions that he's lost due to that pit lane. I'll call it an incident, the fact that he didn't replace his wing on the first time he pitted, and he's making the best out of his soft tires currently. We're on lap 28 of 31, 4 laps to go, and Hudson Poole has gained the lead over the last 2 laps on Quinton Kay after quite an incident between Chad Swindell and Marc-Olivier Bastien. The race has gone one way and another so far, and since the beginning of the race. And in those last 4 laps, it is not done, as there's fighting. Marcel Paps on Camborne, and Ryan Newton is under fire from the drivers behind him, and he's just slowing them down. I'm shocked Marcel Paps didn't succeed in overtaking him with the newer tires, as they're way more performance in those newer mediums than on the ones that most drivers are on currently.
Yes, and this is only holding Marcel and Camborne back from Quinton Kay. I mean, Quinton, I don't know if he's in much of a threat anymore. Not with, actually this Ferrari might be looking to go around the outside of Ryan Newton here. Down the outside, doesn't make it happen. A little bit of contact, might go for the switchback. No, he will not be able to do that. But maybe around here, around the outside of this chicane, can he make it happen?
What a
Just
move.
barely keep it on track, and there he goes. The Ferrari is into clear air, and now he's off after Quinton Kay here.
Marcel Paps started, what position did he start on? He's having himself quite a race. He started P9, and there's a sector 3 flag there, and I think that is, who did I see? It's Major Castleman.
No, it's Cal, actually.
Oh, it is Cal. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I was saying Marcel Paps is having quite a race, and yeah, Sean Moriarty as well. It looks like there was a tangle between Sean Moriarty and I think Cal Blevins in sector 3. Major Castleman is barely catching him on from his earlier spin after the safety car restart. But yeah, having that Ferrari, and we have not seen a Ferrari on the podiums in quite a while, I think, so far this season, if I'm not mistaken, and in the season 8 of Division 1. And so kudos for Ferrari for that. Unfortunately for Sean Moriarty, he's got himself tangled in more incidents than he would expect him to be in Division 1. And that is him overtaking Cal Blevins once again. I don't know if these drivers have front wing damage from their tussle earlier. If they do, they're not obligated to pit. They can finish the race on their damaged wing. And Major Castleman also went into the pit, so I think he might be going in for... let me see, for softs. Let me get the tires on. Yeah, he's going to try for the fastest lap. Look at Hudson Poole, 7.5 seconds ahead of Quinton. Quinton's just holding on for dear life. Even if Marcel Paps gets past him, he'd have to gain, I think, 3 seconds on him for... 5 seconds. So I think Quinton should be safe on that. But nonetheless, he's under heavy pressure from the Ferrari driver, who's got quite the pace so far.
Yes, and 2/10, now 3/10 the gap, and he's just quicker through every single corner than Quinton Kay at the moment. There's just, you can see that he's getting closer through each corner here, and now through the final corner, it's a bit slower actually, but now he's got the DRS. I don't think he'll go for it here because it just doesn't make sense to do so when there's another straight just up ahead, and Chad Swindell is actually making his charge up now. I don't know if it's going to count for anything in the future, but he's doing his best. And now we go on board with Marcel Paps, as this could definitely be the time to make an overtake here. 13% battery, and he's going to use all of it. And onto the DRS now, and I don't know if he's fast enough here. Will he go for a dive bomb? I think he will, because he does it so often. And down the inside goes the Ferrari, but will Quinton Kay try and fight it back? He's just barely there, and I don't think he has enough to fight it back, does Quinton Kay. But even so, I think that he will stay P2 with the on-track penalties unless Marcel Paps can really pull out a flyer here.
Yeah, I think if you're Quinton Kay, you're going to try to keep it civil in this kind of situation. You want to avoid getting into an incident, because if you get into a tangle and you risk a penalty, you risk damage. You got Marcel Paps who's got a 5-second speeding into pit lane penalty. Normally those don't get reversed, but we'll see. Oh, actually he hit Hudson Pool, so that might be looking to call it back. So we'll have to find out. It's not speeding into pit lane for Marcel Paps. It's the tap he gave Hudson Pool during safety car conditions. So that might be called back. That might be reviewed, and we'll have to look into that one. So we could be looking at P3 for Conan K actually.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he can hold on track with all these positions here, unless somehow Ryan Newton closes up this gap. But we're on to the final lap now. Hudson Pool is 10 seconds clear now, and Quinton is just dropping back ever so slightly. I think he'll still be able to keep it as we look on board with Eric Cavallo going down the inside of Aaron Allmeyer into turn 1. A bit of an interesting overtaking place, and this is why you see the Aston Martin flying off track, and now he gets a penalty for going off track and gaining a definite advantage, and now he cedes a position. I'm assuming the game told him to do so. But now I think we might see him go for it again. No, but his Aston Martin teammate is right behind him, waiting to maybe
DRS
pound.
here though.
Yeah, I think he might actually be able to make a dive bomb here, but no, he
doesn't.
doesn't. And now Maxime is still behind him, so Maxime is finally in the top 10, and he might look to finish there, and he might even look to go around the outside of his teammate, but he doesn't. No, Major Castleman wouldn't with that fastest lap, which he was looking for when he put on the soft tires. Good 1 point for McLaren. But now Aaron Allmeyer has dropped back massively from the back of Eric Cavallo, so he is going to be completely vulnerable down these next 2 straights. Either Maxime has to overtake his teammate or protect him from everyone else behind him who will be trying to do so.
Yeah, and you can tell the soft tires have completely dropped off from Aaron Altmaier as well. But despite that, I think the Aston Martin driver can't wait for the race to end, because if his tires are dropping off like that, you can imagine other drivers. And around turns 22 and 23 goes Hudson Pool, and that's going to be a win for the Mercedes driver. Quite a race for Hudson Pool after the safety car restart. Took advantage of the tire strategy and went for the win. A 10-second gap between him and Marcel Paps with a 5-second time penalty. We might see Quinton K take P2. That might be looked at after the race. Chad Swindle, provisional P3 as well. We know things are going to be looked at after the race. There's multiple incidents that happened across the entire grid. Multiple drivers banging wheels and banging walls as well. Ryan Newton in P5, maybe a little bit disappointing for him. He was looking to get his first Division 1 win here. It didn't happen, sadly, for him. Cam Bourne, P6, a good race for the McLaren driver. Eric Cavallo, P7. Maxime Beaulieu, great showing for him in P8. Johannes Ludwig in P9, he finishes top 10. The driver who had multiple spins and really a difficult qualifying ends the race in P9. So kudos to him for not giving it up. And we'll run down the bottom 10 drivers in a bit. There was a lot of drivers. Well, I say a lot. What, those 5 drivers, four drivers that ended up DNFing or retiring on track or off track, I would say, in the pits. Due to multiple situations. And so Major Castman, good for him. Although he's finishing P15, he went in for the softs. As a good teammate, he went for the extra point as well. And so that works good for them. Let's go down the order real quick. After Ludwig in P9, it is Magnussen Q P10, Aaron Altmaier P11, Colin Edwards in P12, Kyle Blevins P13. Oh, Major Castman is actually P14 with the fastest lap. It looks like the Haas of Sean Moriarty DNF'd. I don't know if he... Oh, did he DNF? No, he didn't DNF, but he was behind for some reason. So it looked like he DNF'd on the grid earlier on before the race actually finished. So I don't know what's up with him. But he's P15. Marc-Olivier Biassin, a really unfortunate event for him. He was fighting for definitely a top 3 position, and that's a DNF. P16 for him. Hector Joandi Alpine P17, Stellis Repas, and Freddy Rizal 18 and 19 after questionable racecraft situations ended their race. We're moving on to interviews, Nathan. I'll let you gather all that. All them.
Was it? It was
Hudson, Quinton, and officially Chad Swindle, unless the guys decide to give maybe a spot. I don't know. We'll see. But it should be Hudson, Quinton, and Chad Swindle, the top 3, as the game shows.
went on. Let's see. They will be in here soon. Interesting though. So you said it might be a bit more than 5-second time penalty. What do you think we'd be looking at for
It's a
causing an
very
incident
tough
that would?
call. There's different stewards that are on board with us since the beginning of the season. But when usually the normal penalties we give, which is a 1 penalty point and 5 seconds, are results of a contact following either a driver spinning off and losing a lot of positions, like we saw maybe between Marcel Paps and Major Castman in turn 5. So now we're looking at a DNF. So that could be looked at as a major incident, and then that is totally up to the stewards. It could go anywhere from, and I don't have the rule book in front of me, so I might be making a mistake here, but it could go anywhere between 1 penalty points to maybe 4, and time wise I think it could go up to maximum 10. I think 10 or 15 seconds. Again, new stewards, it's going to be looked at. I'm not making a decision. I'm just saying what the rule is. I'm not calling out what it is or sharing my opinion necessarily on what it could be. We'll look at the replays. Replays could show us all kinds of things. Maybe what Duncan said, saying that the contact made it impossible for Chad to turn right. Maybe it's going to show that on the replays, and we'll look into it then. But for
That's a
now,
lot of waffle. We get Chad Swindell in here.
yeah,
P3. Chad Swindell, a man that may have caused some controversy, but has still ended up on the podium after coming from P10 on the new soft tires. How's it feel, Chad?
Well, I was hoping to not have that eventful of a race, but I guess I'll take the result. We'll see. I don't know if I'm gonna get a penalty. I had a little incident with Mark, but we'll see.
Sounds like, first of all, sounds like you're a bit tired. Maybe that was more of a mental challenge than expected. Already, this track is a challenge to begin with. But then we have that incident. You want to walk us through how your point of view of that incident happened?
Yeah, so I was really just trying to position swap for DRS to try to, keep the speed up and keep that train at bay. The Quentin, Ryan Newton, and Hudson. So I was just trying to position swap DRS, but I guess he wanted to fight back, and I didn't expect it. And then going into that right-hander, it's a really tight turn, and it's hard to go side by side there. But had a slight tap right whenever we got on the brakes, and after the tap, I was turning the wheel. I wasn't really locking up. It just wouldn't turn. I was like caught inside of him. So, if I get a penalty, it is what it is. But it was a tough one.
Yeah, so during the safety car procedures, we saw you pit for the medium tires and probably go to the end on that, but after that, it looked like maybe you picked up some damage right after that and then had to box onto the soft tires. What happened there?
Yeah, I was just mentally, like you said, I was just mentally fatigued, and I wasn't thinking, and I just basically forgot to brake in a corner under the safety car and just ran straight into a wall. So I got front wing damage, and then I was sitting there like contemplating if I should stay out or not. And ultimately, I didn't want to get another penalty for like holding people up or anything like that. So I decided to pit for the softs and see what I could do, and turned out pretty well.
Well, interesting results, and yes, indeed, it's going to be something that's going to be talked out, unfortunately, throughout the week. So that's not the last you're going to hear about it, Chad. But despite it all, it was on pace for potential win. We'll take the P3 and whatever comes after that. Thank you for being in the booth with us once again, and we'll see you another time.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Chad.
Alright, and now we bring in P2, the Haas driver, who's probably in the conversation right now with Hudson Pool. Don't care. Welcome Quentin K into the interview booth. How's it feel, P2?
Oh my gosh. It's been a while since I've been on the podium. I was so nervous during that whole entire race. I was shaking, locking up everywhere. Yeah, just crazy race. Even for Haas, it was amazing weekend. We got a win, 2 podiums, I think. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, a good showing for Haas, and in Division 1, Quinton, you were leading the race after a safety car, and you got quite a launch, and maybe you took that trick from Shrive from how he launched off after the safety car in Division 3, but very quickly you had Hudson Pool on the back of you with fresher tires. Was it, as you mentioned earlier, was it just nervousness that made you lose some pace after the safety car launch, or basically your tires were giving what they could and that was all they had?
There was actually like multiple things. On lap 1, you wouldn't believe it, but I actually got 2 warnings on lap 1. And I went through that entire race stressing to myself to not take another warning. And then my tires were completely dead at the end. I was locking up almost pretty much every corner. And then I just let Hudson by because there was literally no reason for me to hold him up. He was going to pass me anyways. I would have just lost more time. But yeah, it was a really, really good race.
Yeah, I mean, it looked very, very, like, kind of intense because there was a lot of positions swapping around you. I mean, I have to look back during qualifying because it was very wet. I mean, did you do any wet practice before the race, or was it just purely dry, and did you expect the full wet?
I didn't practice for the wet, but I knew it was a scenario that could be possible. So, I might have slapped on the ABS to help me out during the wet, which really helped me. Because I would have put it right into a wall if I didn't.
Respect that.
Most definitely. Well, Quentin K, that is P2. We're expecting maybe post-race penalties, so maybe that will be shuffled around a little bit. But that's P2 for you. Great showing once again for Haas. Indeed, a good, strong weekend for the Haas team. I'm sure there was some cheers in the engineering booth from Anon as well. So congratulations. Go celebrate it with the boys. And we might see you for another podium throughout the season.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Nathan.
Yep.
All right,
Look at
Nathan.
me, man. Got a personal thank you from the man himself.
Don't worry, I'm gonna go talk to him personally and as a teammate.
I'm gonna go smack him down.
Absolutely. All right, let's bring in our race winner, Hudson Pool, who
All right.
absolutely obliterated the competition after the safety car restart.
Yep, P1, Hudson Pool. How's it feel, man?
Feels fucking amazing, bro. I got pretty lucky though, but feels good.
Hudson, safety car restart. You got the fresher tires. You're sitting. Remind me, you're sitting P6 at that moment. Walk us through how you climbed all the way back up to P1 and then completely ran away with it.
So, well, before that, I had the 5-second, which mainly was the reason I pitted for, and I was really pissed off because I hit the pin limiter button, it just didn't work, and so I pitted, and I was behind Castleman, and I knew he was on older tires, so I got a really good launch on him off the line, and I sent it on turn 1, and then Camborne, he didn't give me a fight, he was chill. Then after that was, I think, Ryan, which he let me by, and then Quentin, I got a crazy good exit when he was on super old tires, so that was pretty much it.
Yeah, so I mean, you qualified, what was it, 4th? And from there, was it 4th?
I think it was like 6 or something, but carry on.
Really? I mean, I didn't remember that, but I mean, with the wet qualifying and all, it was definitely high intensity racing for you the entire night. But making up all those positions, especially with all those safety cars and incidents ahead of you, did you, I mean, you were just really able to keep it calm and together, but I'm kind of looking forward here to Belgium here, so it's definitely an easier track than Singapore, I would say, but I know some drivers struggle with it in particular. What is your thoughts on the track?
It's my favorite track on the game for sure. It's one of those OG tracks, and I always love playing on like any game, like any racing game I'm racing. So I'm really looking forward to it. My first no line race was at Spa, and so it'll be a good race. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm gonna be like crazy on pace wise, just because I don't know. It's pretty long, so it kind of screws me over at the end because I get nervous. But we'll see. We'll see.
All right, Hudson Pool. Well, that was P1 for you. Quite a spectacular finish to this race, and a great way to close out this weekend of really fun racing in Singapore. Next week we'll be back on track. This time at the Spa-Francorchamps track in Belgium. We'll see you then, Hudson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nathan, how do you feel about Spa-Francorchamps in the Ardennes Forêt in Belgium? What a wonderful track that is, but a lot of different kind of conditions we might be getting. Potential rain there as well, and going up Eau Rouge in rain. I mean, you've got to get balls of steels to keep it full throttle there if possible. What are your expectations and thoughts on next week's race?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you remember in particular, but all the way back on F1 2021, I was the man in Division 3 who came across to win, and you were the man who happened to commentate that. So it's a big... I like the track a lot, and it's nothing serious, but just because it was the first track I won at in this league, I want to put in a little extra just so I can win again, destroy you in another competition in Division 2. But I think that with a track as good as Spa, with as many overtaking opportunities as it provides, I think we can have some great racing in the future here.
Yeah, I think throughout all three divisions, because there's quite some battles for the division leads, or at least in the top three. And once again, Division 1, the top three gave a good show, despite Marc-Louis Basset scoring 0 points. So we'll see how that plays out for him. He's definitely going to want to be coming back with a vengeance this time for a podium or maybe even a win, because if there's a driver that could do that, it's most definitely him here in Division 1. So keep tabs on that. This is going to be a long season. We're not done yet. It's only been round 3, and it is quite an intense season so far. We've got Belgium, and after that we do have a week off after Belgium, but we're going to be going to Zandvoort, so faster kind of track, and then going back on a technical kind of track, and then we're going back to faster paced track with Monza, Austria, Japan, one of my favorite tracks, Miami, and Qatar to finish the season. Gives a lot of time to practice Qatar. That's in October 8th. That's in 2 months' time. Right now, we keep the focus for Belgium next weekend, and I'm sure some guys are already practicing because it's getting hairy out there on track, and we're all here for it. We're absolutely loving it in the booth, and I hope the people who are watching it with us are as well, unless you're a team principal or rooting for a specific team who's living some moments on track. Nathan, I want to thank you again for broadcasting with me. You're a pain in my ass on track, but you're a good friend on booth. So,
Yes.
I'll appreciate that. And I'll see you again next week. And at the same time, I'll say goodnight to everybody. If you're watching us and you've not subscribed yet, and I don't know if I have that information yet on me, we're 2 subscribers away from getting 400. So if you've not done it yet, do it now and be our 400th subscriber. You get a cookie if you do. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.